2022, people were rushing to buy Bitcoin and dumping their euros and dollars in what became known as the last empty shells and the last hoarding wave. Bitcoin, of course, still exists. I want to talk a little bit about how this world could look like, how are people trading, how are people mining, what goods people are likely exchanging, and generally what things have improved and what things have become a lot worse. Maybe Steve, maybe you can tell us a bit about what mining is going to look like in such a world. What steps do you think the government has taken to, kind of underline their new regulatory framework around cryptocurrencies and how people do it?
All right. Talk about speculative. Well, I think, I don't know. I don't see the government exactly as some evil institution out to just tax and consume and destroy. That is sort of what they can't do, and they do on many occasions. The government is made up of a lot of honest people, and how I related in my talk about the competition that the decentralization that's caused by competition and fracturing. I think as Bitcoin continues to grow, as adopted, there might be a reduction of government, not just in their ability, obviously, to tax, because that's what Bitcoin is a bit of an affront on, is their ability to tax. It challenges that, especially taxation through money printing and dilution of the monetary base. So I don't know. I think in that scenario you painted, I would see the government being smaller. When it comes to mining, I guess it's not that far in the future. We still have a lot of block reward, block subsidy, but I do expect sort of hash power to fluctuate in response to market demand, fee pressure, basically, especially as the subsidy starts increasing further and transaction fees dominate. So maybe I don't know if it's far enough in the future, but maybe we see great spikes in hash power trying to mine fees as they burst onto the network in response to demand and off the network. So maybe that's sort of what mining might look like in the future, but whether or not governments are interested in mining or trying to censor Bitcoin, it's hard to say. Not quite sure.
Trying to hold down, make sure.
I'm just going to say so. We will discuss how many things that are going to happen or maybe not happen in 2024. I'm just thinking about how Mt. Gox is probably going to be holding its annual hundreds creditors meeting in 2024, and that's one thing for sure. I know that's going to happen. So everything else knows. Eric doesn't like any predictions either. So it's not a shitcoin convention, man. We're not making predictions. I'm kind of interested in what, or at least discussing the question, what do you do in an environment like that? What survives? It's probably called like a sustainable ecosystem. If Bitcoin's permissionless and we imagine a scenario where it's not okay to do it, it's money laundering, to use Bitcoin or not, then what happens? People are operating at smaller scale, like private markets do, and centralized exchanges. So we kind of had representatives. We have Sam representing decentralized markets, Roman decentralized exchange, or at least custodial exchange, right? And Steve would be kind of more decentralized, but still, real scale mining. And we also recently had somebody from a regulatory perspective and from a hardware perspective. So you put all that together, right? These are the kind of things on top of core software that people have to do to use Bitcoin. And if we imagine those things kind of all going underground, do we build for that today? Is it, in other words, sustainable Bitcoin development? What do you work on? So as a core developer, I tend to look at core development's role as advantaging the individual, right? Making it more efficient, easy to operate at small scale in a fully kind of trustless manner. And that includes privacy improvements because we have this transaction graph which exposes a lot more than we would like. So that's one thing in terms of sustainable ecosystem. We want to improve the lowest level tools, but I'm kind of interested in that's my place in this whole thing as a technology person. But from a business standpoint, people trying to do business here on top of all layer, there's no business in core development. What kind of businesses would we expect to be profitable?
That's the question to staff. I'm asking them also how people trade each other in such a world, and how people avoid detection, especially in a physical environment. Like, you can imagine quite difficult to advertise that you're accepting Bitcoin, while at the same time avoiding that they get caught and have to get sign outside and approaching my question to now in the chat. Right, yeah.
Well, if you can't see that, I'm just going to take this one because we are a peer-to-peer exchange, right? So I think when local Bitcoin was introduced, limitations on cash trades, there was a lot of noise on Twitter about that. And we did not have any limits for cash trades, but we weren't profiting from that at all because cash trades were, an infinitesimal fraction of the volume. And so mostly people trade using other payment methods. And you could say it's detectable, but to me, the question is, if you're not like a big trader, if it's truly peer-to-peer, and if your volumes as a trader are not too high, is anyone going to be concerned with it, especially like in third world countries? No, I don't think so, because they're not too big of a fish to catch in that case. So I think it's going to be all the same thing that's going on today. I don't see how that changes.
So I see a question posted. I can't hear you guys very well. Hopefully I'm not talking over you. The question is, the year is 2025. Bitcoin is illegal. What goods do people like to trade? How are they trading those goods? How do they avoid getting caught? First of all, I don't know. Obviously, this is just pure speculation. We kind of already have a similar situation. It's not the case that Bitcoin is illegal, except maybe in very few places. But the type of trade that's occurring using primarily Bitcoin is, right? And that's the darknet markets. So I would presume that probably people are going to be, darknet markets are going to continue growing and evolving from what they are now. I think even though law enforcement has successfully busted a lot of darknet markets and we've seen a ton of exit scams, overall the amount of trade year over year has probably continued to increase pretty much every year since Silk Road was busted. And I think it's going to continue, whether or not it's going to be decentralized markets, whether it's going to be direct, people using Wicker and Telegram, whatever. I don't know. I do think that, if Bitcoin becomes illegal, I'm going to assume in that scenario that privacy coins also are illegal. In that scenario, probably privacy coins are illegal even before Bitcoin. And I don't know if Bitcoin becomes a privacy coin or not. I hope that it does. at that point, that's when you hope that the decentralized exchanges step in and still allow people to be able to get Bitcoin in and out without the KYC and AML and ties to the banking systems that make it impossible to engage in trade if Bitcoin were to become illegal. So, what are they likely trading? Probably the same thing they are now. I guess that depends on how severe economic restrictions become. I mean, 5 years from now, are we going into a period of substantially reduced free trade around the world? I can't answer that. If so, it could become much broader than just the drug trade and research chemicals and whatever stuff is really popular now. But yeah, I don't think it's going to look vastly different than it is now, other than if we get to the point where they are directly making things illegal. That is the point at which, as I said in my earlier talk, it becomes oppressive enough, the alternatives are oppressive enough, that we actually start to see adoption of decentralized tools that let people get around the restrictions, though not the majority of people, right? Most people don't want to break the law and incur the risks. We're still talking about a small, crazy group of people, like the people at the conference. I don't think it's ever going to become mainstream.
How do people even interact with Bitcoin? If we assume that after the rules still exist, people can't just download a wallet anymore, do we expect people to go completely off the grid? People have specific hardware devices.
So first of all, answering your question, maybe adding what Simon said, is just, I think there are two separate components to the question: anonymity and censorship. And I think people care less about anonymity, but they do care about censorship more, just because for example, the government or any other entity may know who you are, but they still may not be able to get you because you're in some jurisdiction that they have no powers over. And so the question is whether you can fund things that you want to fund and send money where you would want to send them. That's a more important question. So in that sense, whether Bitcoin's illegal or not in certain jurisdictions, and whether it's anonymous or not, because anonymous coins were mentioned. I think it doesn't really matter that much. I think what matters is that you can still send money. It's the most important thing. And then, how people get, Google bans Bitcoin wallets from search results. Well, in many countries of the world, the authorities order Google and like happens in Russia, all search engines are required to remove any mentions of VPNs, right? I'm sure it happens in China as well. So a lot of people still use them. It doesn't impact anything.
When we talk about outright bans, we never assume they're completely effective. There's always black market grows as the prohibitions go. So the size of the black market is generally smaller in places with fewer prohibitions, and it grows in other areas where there's greater. I think you could argue that in North Korea, the only market is the black market. People wouldn't be able to survive without it. At some point things get bad, the state itself realizes people can't eat, you can't get things. Right? The state itself becomes reliant on the black market, and the whole thing becomes a charade. You have to allow it.
In such a situation, is Bitcoin very useful? We think about the places that do have such a black market, that do have conditions.
It just for some reason made me think of Zimbabwe. I went there a few years ago, and they one dictatorship had like 4 iterations of their money, completely destroyed it, created a new one, and they done it again. And everybody knows kind of how it works, what caused it. They know better than in the West, because they experience it. And it was interesting that when the money became unusable by everybody, the state just accepted that people were using dollars, euros, and rand. Those were the 3 currencies that were accepted widely and accepted by the state. They had to. So it's potentially the money
gets bad enough like that in Venezuela, would it could be, for a while, is able to use Bitcoin for maybe dollars, but then, things tend to come back around and the state starts, they start producing their own money, they start forcing people to use it, initial exchange rates, currency controls, and comes back. So, there's this interplay between the white market and the black market. It's constantly shifting, but the black market's kind of essential. It's the thing that allows people to do things that they still want to do. They're generally peaceful things that oftentimes the state leads them to do.
I mean, look at Russia, for example. It's funny how every other month there's news that says, finally, we're going to have a law that says Bitcoin is this and that, but it never happens because the government itself prefers to get into the gray zone, gray area, right? Because you don't.
And Bitcoin and the types of services that we use and the types of code that we deploy, we have quite a broad range between more centralized solutions and more decentralized solutions. For example, what are the kinds of markets we have, right? We have Shopify plugins, we have Onion dark markets, we have OpenBazaar. For exchanges too, right? We have a range between centralized exchanges and non-custodial exchanges. We have probably centralized networks like this. Do you think it's true that as Bitcoin experiences certain pressure, people move between those spectrum, and is that generally something you find acceptable, or is it generally something you find more problematic, and you would argue that for Bitcoin to be able to survive, people should move to the decentralized alternatives as much as they can?
I think it's kind of unrealistic to expect people to pay higher costs when they're not necessary. And that's what, so you're using Bitcoin for everything, and you're doing everything, but it's a higher cost. It's for consumer trading, it's less convenient for people to take it. Some of the fees, it's everything else. But when the cost balance shifts, then people will do it. So you would expect it to be, when it's not under significance, right, to be more honeymoon phase and kind of collect up to these central things, and then there's a cockroach principle again. Like the lights come on, everybody's the state actually cares, they're watching it start to take maybe tax impact, and see it kind of spread out more. And I think that's probably always going to happen. It always happens in all black markets. Things are allowed, they're just not done openly. We've seen this with, drug war stuff, where certain places where it's illegal to smoke pot, but it's kind of done openly and nobody cares, and then maybe there's a crackdown, people care more and they hide more. So people adjust to the threat, and I think we should expect to see the same thing in Bitcoin. I'm just curious, so we had an investment handle we have, and I've always had this. I'm a business person as much as anything, right? I've done some startups, and I started out with Bitcoin doing hardware wallet. I spent a year on it over here, and after a year, put it on the shelf. The market's just not ready for this. There's not going to be enough demand for something of that quality, that expense level that we determined. So we just started continuing to work on the Bitcoin, which we were using at the time, and that was one of the things we were doing. So I hope someday that there's. I don't hope for the aggression that causes demand, but I also hope to be able to have a business that can make some money, provide tools that people need. So it's a kind of a conundrum. My first two startups were based on one of the standard venture kind of software revenue models, which were selling IP. You write some software, you license it to people, you sell your company maybe, and you're selling the actual software to somebody else. That's one software business model, tech business model. The other one is provide a service and centralize it, which my third company was based on. That one didn't work out, and then I started working on Bitcoin. So those are the basically Google and Microsoft. Right? They sell software, sell services, take a cut. The thing about Bitcoin is neither of those work. You can't really sell IP software because nobody trusts it. You just simply rob them. It has to be kind of community-driven, free, open source software. And decentralization play also doesn't work in a threat environment for obvious reasons. So what business model actually works in Bitcoin, where, in a threat environment where it's a sustainable ecosystem or sustainable profit-driven business? There are models that work like that. Maybe the Red Hat model, which is people have talked about before. You're kind of providing this support layer over the open source software. Red Hat's a good example on the software side. On the hardware side, I always use Cisco. People don't think of it that way, but Cisco kind of built out the internet in many ways. Right? The internet is routers. Bitcoin is nodes, essentially. That's you have to have your own router. You can't outsource your router. It's got to be in the location. Bitcoin is the same way. You can't outsource your network, not if you want to use Bitcoin. So Cisco took basically open source software, put it on some off-the-shelf hardware packages up nicely. Did kind of a Red Hat model for hardware. So those models to me make sense. That's the only thing I found, and I'm actually curious. I suggest you just build it. I want to hear some other business models that work in that ecosystem.
Can I actually do want to talk about this a little bit more, but I also want to hear from Sam, the previous question. So I also asked him about, people moving between different services.
So I see there's a question posted. There's a range of markets, things like Shopify plugins, dark markets, Open Bazaar. People move along that scale based on the pressure they receive. Is it okay, or should we all be using decentralized alternatives now? It's obviously a really good question. I mean, in some ways, I think you could just look to the market and see what is being used and is successful now based on the current dynamics that are in play. And you can't extrapolate that out because right now we don't have that much oppressive government action against Bitcoin specifically. It's kind of like the deplatforming thing we're seeing with say, I'll just pick on YouTube. Most likely, if you post a video on YouTube today that is moderately controversial on some topic, it's going to be there. Like, 99.999% of videos that are uploaded to YouTube are not censored or deplatformed. Well, I don't know if that's actually a true number, but you get my point. And that's probably true today for most type of trade that you attempt to do. A BTC Pay server, right? That's great software. That's really cool. But everyone that's reliant on that right now, at the stroke of a pen, if the government does choose to take any aggressive action, all of that is blown up. So it's really a question of, some of it's an OPSEC question, like there's just no way to use some of this stuff securely. So if you're doing something that, is actually illegal and you need to maintain privacy, some of the options are already on the table. But some of it's just a question of like long-term viability. But there's trade-offs there because it is easier to use a payment processor, sort of in the middle that you run, maybe, than it is to go fully decentralized. And so you might reduce the number of people that are willing to purchase from you if you go fully decentralized. So there are trade-offs there. Everyone has to sort of answer that for himself, but I do really worry about, so there's an economist named Robert Higgs, and he, of course, I'm talking to you guys probably know Robert Higgs, but he talks about the ratchet effect, which is, government powers tend to be increased during times of crisis, often war, pandemics maybe could be another, and those powers don't get decreased often, right? Once they ratchet up, they stay there. And, right now, things like DNS censorship aren't all that widespread, maybe, in some countries, but not in bigger countries. But I do worry, like, if we do start to see targeting of people using cryptocurrencies and trying to move people away, force people into a cashless society, that they just, DNS censorship becomes widespread. and all of a sudden everyone who's integrated Bitcoin into their websites, it can't work anymore, right? So I think it does make a lot of sense to try to adopt decentralized platforms now, because it seems likely, given it enough time, and right, that Bitcoin represents the nation states, they will start attacking. So it's better to be prepared now than to try to make the switch.
So back to these points. We don't have much time left, but I do want all the three of you later on the staff to quickly point out some business models that you think are either likely to succeed in such an environment or generally, quite promising for the future of the decentralized Bitcoin. Larry mentioned maybe Red Hat idea, maybe hardware, like Node, Steve and Roman.
Well, I mean, I guess one thing to look to is like how do existing black markets survive? Drugs, obviously, how does that economy continue to thrive? I think part of it is, there's people like myself, if Bitcoin was banned, I probably wouldn't, unless I could somehow keep covert, like I probably wouldn't shut the business down and not take, risk jail time. But that's because, I have a good life going. I got a wife, hopefully some kids I want to take care of that I value greater than, supporting something that I don't want that taken away from me. But there's other individuals that, while I might not want to participate, there's others that, are willing to take up the opportunity that's still there and are willing, I guess the reward to risk ratio is still high enough for them. Maybe they don't have the same nice things going on in their life. Like why do drug runners and why do drug dealers persist? It's because maybe they have no better opportunities. Maybe they're not educated and they just have nothing else to fall back on, and they're willing to risk their freedom for that. So I don't know. I think that's if you assume that there is going to be a persistent value in Bitcoin to some degree, I think there's going to be that call it faction or subset of the economy that's willing to persist under that regime. And as far as mining goes, I mean, it's the same deal. Like the guys that are able to stay covert are going to be more willing to keep trying to convert transactions and get the rewards. And I mean, hugely speculative, but I think looking to what is happening in the captive market, looking on the black market today, is what to expect.
So my issue is that in the current reality where regulations change all the time, I don't know what's going to happen next. It's very hard to build a sustainable business. It's hard enough to build a business, and then when things change all the time, you're trying to be a step ahead of the regulators. It's very hard. But actually, I have this question for Steve that I wanted to ask. Very quickly, if you don't mind, it comes back to hardware and mining equipment. And how to be undetectable, stay undetectable. In many countries of the world, you can't actually import hardware because they would notice that and they would either tax it heavily or confiscate it. Is there a way to build hardware parts that you can import without raising any questions and then compile them into a mining equipment?
I mean, is there a way? I would say, yeah. I mean, I guess that would drive an incentive for smuggling, like an industry around smuggling, right? There's plenty.
But it would be like completely legal to import certain parts and then combine them like a Lego constructor and just make it work. And
yeah, I mean, I think if you at the end of the day, you have to smuggle something in, whether it's a small component of the ASIC right, or the mining hardware. So maybe it's broken up into just the chips, and then there's a black market that exists in that economy to build out the rest of the infrastructure. But like when I ship my data centers across the border, I mean, I'm not actually worried about confiscation or anything like that, but I call them data centers. I don't call them Bitcoin mines. And when I market my product to oil companies, I I call them data centers, I don't call them Bitcoin mines. You look at my website, it's all about Bitcoin. I'm a pro-Bitcoin person. I think it's great, and so I'm open with that. And I actually see a lot of my competitors aren't open with that because it might not be their business interest. But in terms of, I haven't had an issue importing to the States, for example, from Canada. But, I'm trying to reduce the potential of that issue by I'm still accurate in saying that it's a data center and it's full of ASICs, right? I ship them full of ASICs. So, I think I'm not going to get into the smuggling business by any means, but people will. And I think whether it's smuggling in the full, I built basically a power plant, data center, and Bitcoin mine all in one box. Whether you do that or I ship them all separate, I would see a market for that kind of thing.
Let's hear from Sam as well.
So, the question of business model, there's two things I think are interesting. One is, in a future really dystopian scenario, the internet itself may become a tool that just cannot be relied on. And if that's the case, then radio communication is probably going to be one of the places that satellite will probably be a big part of that, but for just point-to-point actual radio stuff will be important. So there's probably a business model there for getting these tools built and ready in case of that kind of worst-case scenario. I just love radio stuff, so maybe that's my bias, I don't know. But the second is the last mile problem. I'm sure everyone here is aware of this, but like the postal system is one of the greatest surveillance tools that the state has. Packages are, highly monitored, and they keep that data forever, and they create, graphs of everyone being connected, and they generally just get a huge amount of information from that. So I think that's ripe for innovation. I don't know what it looks like. A lot of people talk about, mixed networks using drones and all this stuff. I have no idea what can replace the current system, but it needs to be replaced if we have any chance of being able to coordinate, economic activity outside of state control. So I think it's worth putting time into figuring that out, because the person that cracks that nut, I think could make a lot of money facilitating the tools or the software to do it.
Thanks, Sam. I believe that's all the time we have. So we're going to wrap up for today. Thank you very much for sitting.
Just a couple things I'm going to announce before we let everybody go. But do you have anything?
All the announcements I have were 7 p.m. dinner, 8:30 p.m. music. Yeah,
there'll be a band setting up here pretty soon, so we need to get out of here. We're running about 45, 50 minutes late. That's because we started late. We actually stayed on track pretty much all day. Maybe lost about 15 minutes with AV issues, Skyping issues, whatever. But tomorrow, please be here in the seats, ready to go at 9:45 when Leo starts announcements, so we don't have to delay again, because about half people show up around 10:15 or so. Coffee and pastries and stuff are here. There's also this great coffee shop inside the compound here. It's really nice. So come here, hang out early, and try to be on time so we can get started and not be super quick. They're going to turn on the fans and blow the heat out of this place. We're just going to kind of keep it on. It's a little bit loud, so it shouldn't be quite as hot here leaving. And I just wanted to thank all the people that showed up. I did a count a couple times. There's 30 attendees here. I think there's a couple other people in town and a couple people coming tomorrow. I had a non-canceled attendee count of 41, 42. So, 75% showed up. So 25% didn't tell me, but that's fine. But you guys are the original gangsters of the CRYPTOECON, and nobody else can say they came to the first one. So thanks for coming and hanging out. And we'll have a lot. This band is going to be loud and fun. So come have dinner at 7. Talk to people, because at 8:30 it's going to be a party.
Yeah.
Paul, do you have anything you want to throw at us? Anything you want me to announce to people? Any questions, just address them to the Telegram group, we'll be responsive.